Hello, and welcome to the Reselling Report for today, Friday, May 8th, 2020. I'm your host, Ann Eckhart, and every weekday morning I upload the Reselling Report here to YouTube to update you on the day's retail and e-commerce news, including the latest from eBay, Amazon, Etsy, and Poshmark. If you haven't done so already, I hope you'll subscribe. And now let's get on with today's show. Well, welcome to Friday, everyone. We've made it another week, and I hope you had a good week with your reselling business. I had a good week. Sales have been very steady. It almost feels like eBay 2017 when you just didn't really have to do anything and you would get sales. It's a miracle. But now states are starting to open up. Of course, it depends on where you live. Every state has its own plan and regulations, so it is very confusing. The meme going around online is that the reopening is like peeing in a pool. Like you can't pee in one corner of the pool and not expect that it's going to spread to the other part. That's kind of what it feels like with this reopening. What one state does, or even a part of a state, is really can't keep it away from the surrounding area. In Iowa, most retail is now allowed to open today with restrictions of 50% capacity. Now, that being said, most stores have a very large capacity in terms of fire code. So I'm thinking of when I go to, the mall, which I haven't been there in a while, but if I go somewhere, and when have I ever been somewhere where there was 100% capacity, much less 50%? So I feel like even at 50%, stores are still going to feel like they did before all of this started. My consignment store is opening next week, which I am excited about because I do make money there. I have stuff there that I took right before this whole thing happened, and I have a pile of it in my garage on a table to start taking in. So I am excited to get stuff back to the consignment store, and hopefully stuff will sell. So it will be an interesting weekend to see how these openings go. Let me know what it's like in your state, what's open, what's not, and have you been going out? Specifically, have you been going out to any thrift stores to do any sourcing for your reselling business? A few general retail stories before we dive into the reselling sites themselves. I'm just so interested to see what brick and mortar stores are doing because that does have an effect on those of us who sell online. I think most of us have been seeing pretty steady sales since most brick and mortar shops were closed. Is that going to change a little bit now that things are opening up? Maybe people are still going to be afraid and shop from home. So, more just things to watch, and it's just interesting to watch. Disney Springs, which is the shopping area at Walt Disney World in Florida, is scheduled to reopen on May 20th. Of course, that will probably lead to the parks reopening, I would think, within a month. And they are, of course, going to implement restrictions and procedures. And, of course, it doesn't mean that every store there will open. But that is something that's coming up pretty soon. In other retail news, Neiman Marcus has filed for bankruptcy, just another department store that has really taken a hit. J. Crew, J.C. Penney. If stores were struggling before this, I don't know how they'll make it out, but Neiman Marcus, add them to the bankruptcy list. Then there's another story. Mall owner Brookfield will spend $5 billion to save retailers. This is a story on CNBC.com. Brookfield said its retail revitalization program will focus on taking non-controlling stakes in retailers to assist them with their capital needs. Brookfield has already bet big on retail. It required the remaining stake it did not already own in U.S. mall owner GGP in 2018. The story says property mall owner Brookfield Asset Management is targeting spending $5 billion to help struggling retailers as the retail industry reels from the coronavirus pandemic. The company said its retail revitalization program will focus on taking non-controlling stakes in retailers to assist them with their capital needs. The announcement comes as mall-based retail has been one of the hardest hit industries during the COVID-19 crisis. Thousands of retail stores have been shut since mid-March to try to help curb the spread of the virus. JCPenney and Neiman Marcus filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy this week, and more retail bankruptcies and store closures are expected to be looming. GGP, the property that Brookfield took over, the property group that they took over, It teamed up with the biggest U.S. mall owner, Simon Property Group, to buy the embattled teen apparel retailer Aeropostale. And just earlier this year, Brookfield, Simon, and Authentic Brands Group acquired the clothing chain Forever 21 out of bankruptcy court. Excuse me, stumbling at the end of the week. Brookfield said the $5 billion initiative announced Thursday will be led by Ron Bloom, managing partner and vice chairman of Brookfield's private equity arm. As a former restructuring banker at Lazard, Bloom is known for serving a major role during the 2008, I'm so used to saying 2020 now, 2008 financial crisis on the U.S. government's auto task force. Brookfield said it will be focused on funding retailers that were bringing in normalized revenue of at least $250 million pre-COVID-19 and that have been operating for at least 2 years. So definitely trying to get brick and mortar retail to hang on and keep going. So a lot of shops, restaurants are just not going to make it. You could say we've only been closed for 2 months, but 2 months for a business that was barely hanging on is, and of course then that'll contribute to the unemployment. So we got a long road to go to ever getting back to normal, and the virus is still out there. We're going to have to find a way to live with coronavirus until there's a vaccine, and that could be a while. So we're definitely entering a new normal. We've had the new normal of being at home. Now we're entering a new normal of being out and about. So eBay has once again affirmed their nickname of FBA. There's a new post over on the e-commerce Bytes blog that is titled, "New eBay fees will include commission on sales tax." The post reads, eBay is revamping its fee structure, taking a radically different approach. Instead of paying a final value fee on price plus shipping and a payment processing fee on the total transaction amount, including sales tax, sellers will pay a single percentage fee on the total transaction amount. In other words, eBay is combining its commission fee and payment processing fee into one percentage based on product category. That means sellers will pay a commission on sales tax. Seriously? That eBay must collect on behalf of states that charge it. The changes will impact sellers enrolled in managed payments, which will include many more sellers by the end of July. Sellers are dismayed, and it's not clear states or any other regulators would approve of the practice of a marketplace charging a commission on their taxes. After confirming that eBay would charge the single commission plus payment processing fee on the total transaction amount, eBay executive Brian Burke told a seller in the discussion boards that he understood that that was not the answer the seller was looking to hear. Our goal with the changes was to simplify, reduce billing complexity, and reduce seller fees where possible. Most sellers can expect to see overall savings. It is difficult to compare how the new fee structure changes will impact each seller for each sale, in great part because final value fee commission rates vary by category and are not yet available to all sellers. But eBay has in the past rolled out changes that have been more costly to sellers under the banner of simplifying policies and fees. And eBay may easily raise commissions after sellers have adjusted to the new practice. eBay has not announced the new fee restructuring publicly, other than notifying sellers who will be enrolled in managed payments by July. So this links to the thread over on eBay where this Brian Burke speaks directly to sellers, and sellers are ticked off. Now, it's great that eBay is collecting sales tax for us. That is, of course, a huge, huge help. There's no way most of us could collect sales tax for all 50 states. But to now put the fees on the taxes too? Look, eBay is still the place to be. You cannot doubt that eBay has a huge, huge market. They're the third ranked top e-commerce site in America behind Amazon and Walmart. The traffic's there, the sales are there, the buyers are there. You can't deny it. But this is just like a slap in the face. So basically, you sell something, they'll pile all the fees together, including shipping and taxes, and then you will pay a final value fee on that. So, I don't know. This guy, this Brian Burke, he's really getting torn up in this thread, but let me know what you think. I think that's a bit shady, and it does raise the question of, is that even legal to to put a fee on a tax? I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this in the weeks and months ahead. There is a new press release from Etsy. Now, it's very long. I will link it below if you want to read through the whole thing, but it is from Josh Silverman, who's the CEO of Etsy, giving an update on Etsy's first quarter profits, which were darn good. They also highlight what they did in the first quarter in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. They assembled a COVID-19 task force, moved to a fully remote workforce. They introduced several initiatives to support the seller community. These included waiving the fees for the new offsite ad service, a 1-month grace period to give sellers extra time to pay their bills, a seller guide to managing an Etsy shop, and 24/7 member support. They adjusted their marketing strategies and spend for Etsy during the first quarter to respond quickly to the changing dynamics. And I can attest to that because there are Etsy ads all over television and the internet. To capitalize on the unique and defensible right to win, they continue to invest in product development, making material improvements to the customer experience during the first quarter. Says they improved search and discovery by continuing their high-ranking algorithms and delivering more relevant recommendation when buyers are further along in the purchase funnel. They also are still pushing the free shipping for orders above $35. And then it goes on to talk a little bit more about the numbers, which a lot of this is, I don't understand what they're saying. There's numbers, there's percentages. It's all in the article if you want to go over to read it. Basically, Etsy is up a lot over where they were year to date from last year. Shoppers are turning to Etsy for those face masks more than anything, but also flour and crafting supplies and sourdough bread starter. Etsy really pivoted, and the sellers on Etsy who hand make items really pivoted. Although I've heard from a lot of vintage sellers who are doing really well on Etsy right now as well. So it is just interesting to see now. We know that eBay and Amazon had a great first quarter. We know that Etsy had a great first quarter. So the top 3 sites for reselling, Amazon, eBay, and Etsy, are doing very, very well right now. So if you're on one of those sites, some people are on all 3 of them. Hopefully it's going well for you too. So while the press release talks about the first quarter of Etsy, there is an article on CNBC.com titled, "It was suddenly Cyber Monday. Etsy CEO says sales spiked 79% in April." So April, first month of second quarter, and things are going real well over on Etsy. The key points of this article are that non-mask sales on Etsy were up 79% year over year in the month of April. That's non-mask sales, okay? We know the masks were hot. The company sold $133 million worth of masks during the month of April. Again, that's not included in the 79% increase. That is like a Cyber Monday, Black Friday, 90% off at Target day all rolled into one. Silverman said, "Our sellers are so good at inventing products that are really relevant for the moment and have been ready to ship those." Further down the article, it also says that Etsy has seen bright spots in the home furnishing, toys, games, and gardening departments. All of these categories are just doing fantastic, Silverman said, and our sellers are so good at innovating products that are really relevant for the moment and, again, ready to ship. While some categories are humming on Etsy, others are slumping, particularly weddings. With social distancing mandates in place and gatherings limited to small groups, marriage ceremonies are in limbo. Weddings would normally be a huge category for us in the month of April and for our sellers in the month of April. Wedding category is down more than 50% year over year, but many other categories are doing absolutely fantastic. As business began to boom on Etsy, the company reversed course after cutting back on marketing spend, as many companies do in recessionary environments at the end of March. The company, Silverman says, revamped its advertising program to get placements on television in mid-April as sales spiked. "We told our marketing team we need to get on TV now to tell our story. This is our moment." And yes, they have. So again, this article will be linked in the show notes below. You can read it, and you can also watch the interview that he did. Actually, there's 2 interviews here. Yeah, there's 2 interviews from CNBC with Josh Silverman. If you're interested, you can go over and watching those. Finally, today, if you are an Amazon FBA seller and are confused about what you can send in, what you can't, what they're taking right now, there's a helpful article over on jumpfly.com that's titled, "Amazon's Non-Essential Items FBA Freeze Starts to Thaw." Wondering when you can start shipping non-essential items to FBA centers? For a limited number of items, the answer is now. All signs show that Amazon FBA is slowly getting to its feet after the onslaught it faced with the COVID-19 pandemic. For sellers who found themselves on the short end of Amazon's essential items list, this is very good news. Many sellers whose products are not considered essential items had seen Amazon switch from prioritizing FBA inventory to utilizing fulfillment by merchant in order to fulfill orders. With dwindling FBA inventory and the inability to ship more due to its essential items only policy, this was a wise decision. It was also beneficial given Amazon's choice to give the buy box to non-FBA offers that had better delivery times. Now FBA is starting to rise to prominence again. Shipping times are still longer than the 2 days we've been accustomed to from Amazon Prime, but they're days out instead of weeks out, which is true. Some things I've been ordering, now they are coming a lot faster. So hopefully they will get back on track because the shipping of my books is very slow. Now, for most of you who know the books that I publish on Amazon, which are linked in my Amazon store, which is linked below the video, I upload the files to Amazon, but when somebody buys a book, Amazon prints it. And they've been way behind in printing the books because, again, non-essential. So hopefully that will start to pick up. I have noticed some books when they were saying 2 to 3 weeks are now saying like 5 days. So hopefully that will increase on my end. But anyway, the article goes on to say sellers are even able to start shipping inventory to FBA fulfillment centers again in limited amounts. And goes on to say an Amazon representative, some seller support confirmed its gradual reopening of Amazon's FBA warehouses. Amazon has reportedly gone through its full catalog to evaluate which products are eligible to be shipped into the FBA warehouses and in what quantities. Good grief, whose job was that to go through the whole Amazon catalog? That'd be like your worst day at work. Hey, Jimmy, could you go through your entire catalog of products and decide what we can take? I'm sure it was a bot, but whatever. I'm just imagining some guy in an office somewhere like going through everything on Amazon. Probably not. Anyway, it is critical to understand the quantity in their catalog as it includes all the inventory that you have at Amazon. For example, if you have 10 units available and 5 units that are reserved and your report says you can ship 50 units to Amazon FBA, you can actually only ship 35. The FBA limit accounts for the total amount of inventory that is available, reserved, unfillable, and inbound, according to Amazon. Well, that's a confusing number. They have a chart here that shows you how to do it. Download the report. For a list of eligible products you can ship to FBA, you'll see the quantity limits for each item in column AB. Current month, storage discount, maximum inventory threshold. We are not out of the woods yet. There is considerable uncertainty and volatility both on and off Amazon, but it's promising to see even the slow progress represented by the FBA juggernaut accepting some non-essential inventory. This whole, really, the resellers who I think have been hurt the most during this whole pandemic have been those who utilize Amazon FBA. With them shutting down shipping items in, that has really created a backlog and problems for FBA sellers. FBA sellers invest more in their inventory, I think, than any other resellers do. So they've got huge amount of investment, huge amount of products. So it's going to take a while for the big FBA sellers to dig themselves out of this hole unless they've shifted to merchant fulfilled and maybe are going to stick with that now. But you can't beat FBA in terms of simplicity and not having to deal with individual orders. But it is complicated. I haven't done FBA in a couple years, and I can't even imagine jumping in at this point because with all of the requirements and technical data on the back end, it's a little much for me. But if you are an FBA seller, hopefully things are a little more hopeful for you now. And that is a wrap on today's show. If you liked it, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment, even if it's just a hello or an emoji. That engagement really does help with YouTube's algorithms. And you guys have been doing that this week. I really, really appreciate it. Be sure to check out the show notes below the video for links to the articles I referenced. You can email me your questions or reseller stories. My email is also below. Thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you again on Monday. Have a great day and a great weekend. Bye.